You are listening to the Rekt Chords Podcast. Today's guest, Russian Tim.
Tim, how you doing today, man?
Life is fantastic. Life is super, super great.
Super great. Tell me what's great about it. You have a new album coming out. Tell me about all that.
Yeah, the album actually comes out tomorrow. It already came out on vinyl, and people who got the pre-order, they got the record. But on all the digital platforms, the album comes out tomorrow. It's more relief than happiness because we started the process of recording on June 1st, 2020. So it's been kind of like almost a year and a half sitting on this record. And before recording, we obviously had to practice everything. So it's been a while for obvious reasons. But, you know, it's finally there. So, yeah, good.
Is there a reason you picked this specific date, November 2nd, to release the record?
Well, November 3rd is my birthday, so I made a little birthday for myself. But to be honest, we were just waiting. We booked about a year ago an album release show for November 20th with the hope that hopefully in November 20th, 2021, we can play a show. But still to the last minute of all the new rules and everything else, we were not sure if we will be able to have at least more than 100 people because of like all the restrictions. So they lifted it a little bit. Again, it's a gray area how they lift it, but at the same time, you know, we were waiting till the really like a month out, and I don't like planning events and announcing events and like started actually working in less than 3 months. So, but again, it was linked to all the circumstances, all the rules. And because the album, we figured out, okay, we can do the show on November 20th. So I just uploaded the album to Spotify, and the earliest date it was available November 2nd. So that's why we picked it.
There we go. I like it. Sweet. We're going to definitely dive into more of the record and stuff in a little bit. But one thing I did want to talk about a little bit is how you grew to be such a centerpiece in Vancouver's punk rock scene. Everybody in the punk rock scene knows who you are. You throw all these shows, you throw all these festivals. You're such like a big supporter of the scene. And before we deep dive, you know, like how you kind of developed your role in Vancouver's punk scene specifically, I'd love to kind of start off with what brought you to Vancouver and how did you kind of grow from there? What brought you here in the first place? When did you come here?
I moved here 2006. We did like the normal family immigration. My mom came, she was the first one 2004. I came in 2006, and my granny came over here in 2009. Since I was a child, because I was born kind of on that transition from Soviet Union to Russia, and that time and period in the country was pretty hectic. There's like, I don't think for the 6 months they had even a constitution when the Russia organized. Like it was very uncertain for my family, for my parents, and the future was, you know, uncertain. That would be probably the way. So since I was a kid, I knew that I'll probably end up living in a different country. It wasn't my decision. It was my family decision. We tried to migrate to the United States of America in the early 90s. Then we switched to Canada, and we started the process in, I believe, 96. Oh, no, sorry, 99, something like that. Like it's forever. It takes forever. But because it was like the legal immigration to go through all the stuff, to submit all the documents, to do the medical. So 2006, we were given go ahead. I finished university in Russia and moved here. So so Canada became a second home. We absolutely love it here. And we're proud to be half Russian, half Canadian.
Hey, was there a specific thing that brought your family to Vancouver specifically over, say, like Montreal or Toronto or somewhere like that?
Oh, there was a very specific reason, and it's called weather. When you first get your immigrant, like back then, I'm not sure how it's now, but back then when you first get your all official papers and like go ahead to immigrate, you need to do the process called landing. Landing is when you just come to Canada first time and you get your SIN, your like all the like basic documents. It's like the initial stage of immigration. So for some reason, I don't remember why, but we did it. We went to Toronto to do the landing. And it was November, and Russia was obviously November. So we left cold, snowy Siberia, and we got in Toronto, and it was pretty much the same. It was like slush. It was like cold wind in your face. It's actual snow. We're like, what are we doing? Like, what are we? Why the change? Like, how is it different? And then so we landed and we stayed in Canada for a few weeks, and then we went back home. And then my mom said, all right. She immigrated next year for good, and she said, I'm not coming back to Toronto. She did research and found that Vancouver is beautiful as it is, and the weather has absolutely almost nothing, no snow. So the decision was made for us.
Makes sense. It's funny, the whole time I thought, obviously your band is called Russian Tim and Pavel Bures, so I thought maybe, back in Russia you saw Pavel Bure playing for the Canucks, and you thought, I'm going to choose Vancouver because he's a hockey player and from, killing it over in Vancouver. Are you a big hockey fan at all or no?
My number one sport is soccer, and I like football. I'm absolutely obsessed with it. But I also like hockey. Like, I wouldn't call myself like a proper fan who like knows everything. But I follow obviously the local team, the Vancouver Canucks. Speaking of Pavel Bure, when I was a kid, one of my childhood memories with the Canucks that I remember after school, they used to show the Stanley Cup Finals against the New York Rangers when Canucks played and unfortunately didn't win. But for some reason, I remember that when I was a kid, because of time difference, the games were like, I don't know, like they would show it a couple of days later, but because no internet, you had no results. And I remember when I was a kid, for some reason, that specific Stanley Cup Finals, I watched it like every single game, and the same thing with Chicago Bulls at the same time, early 90s. So that was my kind of sports North American childhood memories. And yeah, obviously that Canucks team, that was the first time kind of hearing and knowing about them. And then I kept following because like they had Russian players, and that was like my first hockey proper memory.
And is there what specifically attracted you to calling the band Pavel Bures?
Well, that's a long story, because originally when I moved to Canada, I started doing radio show on CITR. I had to name a show, and I called it Rocket from Russia because I'm from Russia, because it would had to be a punk rock show. So obviously Ramones' classic album Rocket to Russia was a good reference. And then also Pavel Bure, who was a Russian rocket and probably the most famous Russian in the history of the city. He was also Russian rocket. So that name Rocket from Russia kind of checked off a few marks about myself, about punk history, and about the most famous Russian in at least sports, let's say Vancouver history. And so that's kind of how I started. And then when they started the band, that transition from from Russia to Russian Tim and Pavel Bures was pretty seamless.
Beautiful. How long did it take you? So you moved to Vancouver pretty much after college. How long did it take you to? Right, I'm correct in saying that.
Yeah. I finished university in 22, and then I moved here in 2006.
And so, how long did it take you to kind of integrate yourself into our punk rock scene? When did you start becoming, more yourself in our punk rock scene? Like, how did you go from, brand new to the city to where you're at now?
Well, as naive as it sounds, again, like the decision to immigrate was made by my family before I was able to make any coherent decisions. But when this whole thing started, my mom was we're like best friends. Like we have like a very friendship relationship. She asked me, do you want to move? Like, if you don't, like, you can stay in Russia. But to me, as naive as it sounds, one of the reasons I wanted to immigrate was to live in a place where I can see NoFX every year.
There you go.
And before that, back then, NoFX never played in Russia. And like here, I see like every year, no problem. And again, it's as naive as it sounds. And it's not only NoFX, but that kind of showcase, like being able to be in a part of the punk rock scene in North America. And so I moved here November 22nd. My first show to go see was December 17th. So it took me less than a month to go to see a punk show. And I went to Richards on Richards to see the Living End from Australia. And then I just kept going on a pretty much monthly, weekly basis. And first of all, I had no idea what the hell was going on. So I was just going to like big shows, to like Rogers Arena and other stuff, like the punk stuff. But then I discovered places like Pub 340, which was back then. A Lamplighter had some shows before it became the Only Group's place, Richards on Richards, like all those places. And I still kept going to the shows. And for example, I am fairly, I'm a bit outgoing person in a sense. So I would go to a show, I see somebody at the same show like 3 times in a row. And I said, "Oh, hi! I've seen you at the Bouncing Souls shows, and like my name is Tim. I just new to the city." Um, it was probably was said in a way worse English with a bigger accent, but still. So that's how I started making just friends and seeing people at the shows, and step by step, I discovered local punk scene. It was the Rebel Spell back then, Cambridge, like all this, like all Living the Lions. All these bands, like even I caught a little bit of the end of Daggermouth. So all this stuff, I started going to shows, meeting people. And the first thing I started doing the radio show on CITR in 2010. So after 4 years, I started doing, because I was really interested in the local scene and obviously in a world punk scene. So, and me being like punk rock nerd, I like the idea of, talking on the air and playing the stuff I like.
Very cool. And so how long after you're going to all these shows, you're making all these friends, I presume at this point, seeing people regularly at all these different shows, you go to like every show, dude. So that's like really awesome. And how long did it take you before you started your first band?
Well, the band we just started in 2017, and to be honest,
so long. Okay.
So yeah, I played with a few people, just like practiced, but never really came. It was fun, but never nothing really serious came out of that. But in 2017, I met Sergey and Julia, who are guitarist and drummer of our band, and they kind of forced me, because what happened is that I didn't want to do a show because I was busy enough with all the other stuff, with my like this profession, like my work life and like all the music stuff, which I was doing back then. But then they forced me, and I kind of shifted my priorities and decided to do the band. And the way it happened is that the Contra Code played a show, and we did a song by Good Riddance together. And just for fun, no nothing. And I sang the song. Everything was fun. I was myself, like energetic on stage, all that stuff. And after I stepped down from the stage, Sergey and Julia come over to me and say, "Hey, buddy, we need to start a band together." I said, "Listen, like I have stuff to do. Like I don't want to start a band. It wasn't even a plan. I just wanted to do one song with Contra Code. It wasn't any life-changing experience." They say, No. You're so good. We have to do it. We have to do a band, and we have to do it together. I was like, so I said, okay, let me think about it. I thought about it. I said, okay, let's start the band. But how about I'll be the band leader in terms of like making decision, organizing. They're like, yeah, no shit, like of course do it, because like that's kind of how I wanted to make sure that what we're doing is how I want my band to see, and they were cool with it. And to this day, I think that they were still on the same page, because the way the band is organized, I think everyone is happy.
Very good. Yeah, it's always good to have somebody kind of, steering the ship in a way and kind of having the overall vision. I feel like kind of keeps things a lot more cohesive. And you do have a very cohesive look. You all wear your soccer jerseys on stage. It all works very well. And what I love about the group is how you still sing your lyrics in Russian. How does it feel bringing lyrics from your own country, your own language, singing them in front of a crowd that 95% of people have no idea what the hell you're saying, and they're still loving the music? Tell me about that experience for you.
That was a calculated challenge which I took on. It was very calculated. It was actually a thought put in this, and I had an experience of playing on my radio show, playing lots of European bands, because kind of I grew up in Russia. Lots of European bands play in Russia, and that's how we kind of learn about them. So I know like some German, Italian, French bands who sing in their own language. And I remember that I was playing the songs, and people would say, yeah, the band is cool, but like I have no idea what the hell they're saying. And to me, it comes absolutely natural, because not being a natural English or any other speaking person, like when I was born, just spoke Russian. To me, English, German sounded all the same, because I had no idea what they were singing about. I just liked the melody. You have no idea, the first version, when I heard Basket Case, what kind of sounds I was making when I was singing along. Like it wasn't English. It was just like something what I hear. And to me, like this hearing music in foreign language, to me, it's completely normal. To me, this is just like a part of, I don't distinguish between like which language. I just like the melody, and like, you know, if I understand the lyrics, it's a bonus, but it's not the key for me. But then when I moved here and I was playing on the radio show, all those French, German, European bands, and people like, yeah, it's cool, but I have no idea what they're saying. And I felt this kind of resistance, but I decided, okay, I'm comfortable singing in Russian. Like this is the language I know the best, and we have the songs in this language, but we have to compensate it with something. So the decision was made to compensate it with energy on stage, like you said. So even the people don't understand, they kind of think it's fun, and and they kind of give us the absolutely right. 95% have no idea. They kind of blindfoldedly give us a trust that what we sing is kind of, you know, normal, because they think, oh, some communist in Russian probably promoting Putin in the Russian language. But to be honest, no, like we do quite a few covers, and those covers are usually just regular pop songs about love and, you know, all the regular stuff which like any North American pop band sings. And then we have a few like own songs, and those are like really like, again, trying to be funny. It's humorous. There's no politics, no nothing. So like they, even if they don't understand, we're still nice people.
And so what are kind of the lyrical themes? Like, what are some of the songs on this new album about?
Yeah, there's a few covers. There's a few songs which my friend from Russia, his name is Slava, he wrote it. We write a lot of stuff together, because since I moved, we were in the together in the band in Russia. Then I moved here, and me and you really connected with on a songwriting level. And since I moved here, me and him were still writing songs over the internet, like exchanging ideas. And when the band happened, I was like, oh shit, I already have a whole bunch of songs written with Slava. So there's a few songs from his band and songs we kind of co-wrote together over the internet. Those songs are about some personal politics, but again, there's nothing serious. There's songs about my favorite song of the album is called Golos. It's both best song and coincidentally the shortest song. So I don't know what that means, but but this song is personally, Golos means the voice, and this song, for example, talks about the voice as your voice, what you stand for, and the sign that TV show, remember, like when they sing and like people. So there was like a period in Russia when this show became absolutely massive. Everyone was obsessed with it, and the lyrics of the song talk about that. Maybe you're obsessing about the wrong voice. There's so many problems in the country, and you focused on one voice, but maybe you should be focusing on the other voice. So that's
wow, that's actually really profound, and it kind of represents, you know, kind of the overall mindset of how people, you know, we're full of these distractions with TV shows and celebrity gossip and Instagram, and there's so much more important things going on in the world that nobody focuses on until it's like a trending topic that we could share on our Instagram story type of a deal. So yeah, I definitely, what are your thoughts on all that? Do you agree with
that? You absolutely got it. That's what the song about. And especially, you know, maybe I'm a little bit spoiled because living in Canada is so nice. I'm freaking out when people say, oh, Canadian politics is bullshit, like we're disgraces. Like, my friends, you haven't lived in Russia. Like, what, your problems are not problems at all. Like,
how would you compare the Canadian to the Russian political dynamic?
Well, Russia has like a proper tyrant in charge of the country for like probably close to soon 30 years. Corruption is absolutely insane, and this corruption is empowered by the government. They are like, the whole country is really like deep in corruption. It's impossible to run business if you don't have the right, if you don't bribe off proper people, some special people. It is pretty crazy compared to Canada. Like, I speak to my dad, and my dad says, listen, like, I'm so happy for you because you can just live in Canada and run your own business, in a sense that it's just you versus the business. You have to be good at it, but there's no other, how in Russian we say, underwater stones, like the stone which you don't notice. He says, I have to be good at business, but I also have to bribe the certain people, make sure I don't have issues with this and that. And it just like, you know, and it's so like, there's just another level where we have to deal with corruption and all that stuff. So like, it's completely different. And and then there's like, here when they have like, I heard people say Canadian elections doesn't mean much in the sense that, the Canadian politics is linked to US politics, and like, our politics here in Canada it's not like a global topic.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, like, there's a few parties, then they have the actual election, and they like, there's competition.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my friend, in Russia, like they had one leader of opposition.
Mm-hmm.
He was poisoned with a chemical weapon. He lucked out that he didn't die. He was flew out to Germany, where he was recovered, and upon arrival back home, he was put in prison for 10 years.
Whoa!
So that's being an opposition. That's like a story which was absolutely insane. So, and he was just the opposition. He wasn't a criminal. He was opposition, leader of opposition, but now he's in prison for probably 10 years or so.
Are they still doing voting out in Russia at this point, or no?
If you use the air quotation, yes, they do. Like it's a joke. It's
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, it's hard for obviously somebody living in Canada to kind of comprehend that style of government, So I guess it's true. Maybe we are spoiled a little bit in that sense. Okay, we're getting a little bit off the topic. Let's go back to the music. But that was a fun little sidebar. So another part that I thought was really interesting was how you grew as a promoter in the scene. You throw all these shows, especially festivals. Could you talk a little bit about how you transition into actually throwing your first show and then becoming this bigger promoter in the Vancouver scene?
Yeah, when I arrived to Vancouver and started going to local shows, I realized that we had some segregation in terms of like subgenres. So for example, there was a ska show, there was like a hardcore show, then it was like a skate punk show, pop punk show. I would go to all of them, but I would notice that there's like 5 bands and they're playing for like 30 people, let's say, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's the best band who is the headliner, or maybe there's not headliner, but I thought they were the best band. So what I did, I went for all these genres and I mixed it up and I picked my, let's say, 4 or 5 favorite bands from all these different bands. And I said, okay, if you can, let's say, generate 30 people, how about we put 5 bands from different scenes, and instead of 30 people will have 150 people. Mm-hmm. So each of you will bring 30 friends, which you bring anyways. And that's kind of how I saw that. To me, that was like an issue, because like it was very segregated it wasn't really by genre, by group of friends. If those bands hang out with each other, they play shows together with each other. But how about we'll mix it up, handpick my favorite ones, and hopefully they will be the best ones. And that's how I started doing it. And that came from that I started initially promoting the shows through my radio show. So I would help like promoters with the promotion. And then in 2014, I did my first show at the Biltmore Cabaret. It was Jesse Burde, Ancores, and Contra Code, and somebody else, I don't remember. But again, like all those bands were slightly from different scenes, sub-scenes, or a group of friends. And that was the first show. And then I just kept doing it. And that's kind of how it all started. And that's the idea of the festival, which I do, Rocket from Russia Fest. Mm-hmm. I kind of like to mix up and bring people from different circles of scene together in one event. And sometimes it happens, sometimes it's end up being fun.
Did you find it difficult, or do you even still find it difficult? Because obviously running a show, there's a lot of moving parts. You got to organize with all the bands, you got to get door people, sound people. Did you find all that difficult, especially in your early days, or did you have some kind of event running background prior to this? Like, how did you get all that organized?
Yeah, I had a small booking agency back in Russia where I did lots of local shows for my band. And what we would do, we would fly in bands from Moscow and St. Petersburg with my partner. And then we would do a small tour across Siberia, because I'm from Siberia, and there's about 5 to 6 large cities within drivable or trainable distance where you can have a show. So we would like bring a band to do a show at our hometown, and then do 2-3 other dates close by. So I had this whole idea of how to, how organize the show, how to front the money, that all the aspects of sound promotions and all that. So I knew that experience. And when I moved here, I went to Pacific Audiovisual Institute and I finished the program Music Business, and that really helped me. So I think that's really helps me throughout doing local events, because all the knowledge which I acquired by myself back in Russia here was put in place in organized form. It was delivered to us, we obviously, as students, how it should be, and all the pieces of puzzle which I came up by myself with my business partner, and we were like, oh, that's a cool idea. How about this? Try this. And here there's history of, 100 years of organizing entertainment events. Everything we put in place on the Canadian soil, how the rules are with liquor and with everything else. And that really helped me. And so I had this knowledge, personal experience from Russia, and knowledge from the music business program.
Very good. Very good. We have a couple last minute questions here. Is there a song on your new record, something from Russia, something more in Russian, that holds any special meaning to you?
No, I just like the songs. In terms of meaning, like there must be some connection. That song "Golos," which you talk about the voice, I think it's the best song. It has a good melody. The last song is called Alice Hong Song. It's the closing song. It's a cover of a Russian legendary band called Kino. It's a song called the song is "We Want to Dance." It's just like a kind of dance song. It doesn't hold any meaning personally to me, but for some reason, all my friends and my mom really likes it. It's on her call. When I call her, she asked me to put it on her phone. So because they like the song, I also kind of like it too. And that was the first song which we did with Jesse Gander, and he played organ on it. So it was a new experience. So that you can say that holds some meaning to me. But again, like I kind of try to like all the songs. Not all of them are equally good. Some of them are not as good. But it is what it is.
And perfect. I love that. What's next for Russian Tim and the Pavel Bures? Album coming out. You got a show coming up. Tell us all about it.
I would love to tell you, we have insane amount of plans that we're gonna conquer the world, but it really comes down to all the rules and regulations with the concerts. Because if everything was normal, we would go on our normal schedule of playing shows every month. We play shows every month, but we try to mix it up by going out of town to go to Okanagan, to Alberta, to Squamish. So we don't play every single month and people get tired of this Russian dance music. That's just how the band exists. We usually have a show every month. We like doing that. We like to be in that consistent. But again, like if we like, it's traveling is a little bit wonky right now in terms of COVID and everything else. So we'll try to play shows. So we're already working on new song. In pandemic, I wrote quite a few new songs. We recording a new EP in the spring. Then we will do Rocket from Russia Fest, most likely next summer. There will be a new song for us, and then we'll slowly start working on the new songs. But it's weird, we just released this new album, but we started working on those songs 3 years. They're old to us, but because of all delay, they're kind of still new. We would have to play them for a little bit, but we already have the material for the next record, or maybe even record and a half. So again, I would have told you we have phenomenal plans and this is gonna be great. But again, if they close the shows or events again, then all my plans will fail again.
Do you have any final thoughts for the listeners, Russian Tim?
Yeah, I don't have any thoughts. I'm just going to promote the show, which is happening on November 20th. We're playing 3 shows in November. On November 5th, we're going to Victoria to play a show organized by Victoria Sky and Reggae Festival. On November 13th, a Dream Come True show, we're opening for Lagwagon. They will be playing an album called Double Platinum, and we were invited and lucky enough to participate as an opening ensemble. And November 20th is our big show. It's our album release show. The tickets are already fairly low, and we're like almost a little bit less than a month out. Hopefully it's going to be fun. Hopefully all the rules and everything will allow us to have as much fun as we want. And then we'll do more shows.
All right. Thank you, Tim, for spending some time with us today. This was a really fun interview. Congratulations on the new album and all the shows coming out and all the good stuff happening to you over here in Canada. That was Russian Tim from Russian Tim and Pavel Bures. See them November 20th at the Fox Cabaret. And their new album, Something More in Russian, is probably out right now. So listen to it everywhere. Thank you, everybody, and we will see you next time.